So we've been studying, we have about 50 condition-based maintenance case studies and we're turning them into a written playbook that you'll be able to find on our website. Again, it will come in the email after this event as well. And what we found in that research is that the main drivers are very well documented actually by IFMA, BOMA, APA, ASHI, all of these organizations that study maintenance best practices. And they've documented a pattern of staffing and resources falling behind. And then preventative task, which is the blue line on this chart, they generally are getting replaced by reactive tasks, and then known issues are getting deferred, and that's on the yellow line. And when teams get reactive and defer fixes, 5 main problems occur, as shown on the slide in the big bold red text. And that's basically asset life shortens, which increases capital replacement costs. Emergencies happen, and then those emergencies cost 3 to 5 times more than planned fixes. 10 to 20% energy waste has been documented by the DOE. Higher occupant complaints and worse occupant experience when stuff doesn't work. And finally, the subtle one that I think was fun when we uncovered this in the research is the upper left. Basically, precious labor is spent doing site visits and PMs on equipment that doesn't actually need it. It's not needing any sort of attention at the moment. And so owners are actually looking for new technology-enabled ways of doing maintenance. And what we also found is that condition-based maintenance, there's a bit of a myth, and it's not necessarily what people think, and it's not always what the marketers are wanting us to believe about it. And that myth is that condition-based maintenance is not necessarily an evolution from preventative maintenance, which is an evolution from reactive maintenance. Maintenance programs today are a hybrid of reactive work, preventative work, compliance inspections, backlog triage, et cetera. And you don't really graduate from one to the next. It's best to think about condition-based maintenance as a layer on top of that current mix that improves occupant experience, lowers energy use, prioritizes your labor, extends the life of equipment, and avoids emergency breakdowns. I would love to see more in the chat as we're going here. Thank you, Nathan. Wow, Nathan's just right on cue there. Look at that. And Matt is a smartass. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. All right, so what is this layer I'm talking about? BOMA defines condition-based maintenance as any maintenance performed on the equipment's actual condition rather than a set schedule. And I think based on that previous slide, what I'd add is rather than waiting until it affects occupants or causes some sort of emergency, right? And I think a better way to explain it is naturally at Nexus, we like to go a little bit more below the surface. And the way that I think about it is these steps 4, 5, and 6 of the playbook we're about to walk through, they illustrate what condition-based maintenance actually is. And so step 4 is technology of some sort generates a signal about a piece of equipment's actual real-time condition. And that could be FTD, which we'll talk a lot about today, saying a damper is stuck. It could be a drone, which we'll also talk about today, saying, you have standing water on the roof. It could be an IoT sensor that says, hey, your motor is vibrating and that pattern of vibration is abnormal and you need to check it out. Step 5, those signals are then triaged, meaning they're validated. Are they real? They're prioritized. And then most importantly, diagnosed to determine a specific action. And then 6, that action is then inserted into your maintenance workflows, usually in the form of a work order, alongside those reactive and preventive work orders. And a little note at the bottom here, yes, some of the signals will be predictive. So in our case study library, we do have examples of predictive maintenance. We don't think that the industry needs another buzzword for predictive, though, so we're not going to talk about predictive maintenance here today. The condition that you get in condition-based maintenance could be that something happening is bad. It could also be a prediction that it's about to be bad. It's still a condition, and so we're just going to stay with condition-based maintenance throughout this playbook. Okay, so let's get to the playbook. This is going to be a brief overview. You can find the rest as a downloadable PDF on our website. The first thing we learned studying all these case studies is the playbook has 3 phases. The previous slide started on step 4. Steps 1 through 3 are the setup phase, and that's where the team really sets themselves up for success by defining the outcomes, which we'll talk about soon, then mapping out current workflows. If you're expecting to insert the conditions into your maintenance team's work, you need to first map out how they do their work today. So that's step 2. Then step 3 is designing out your pilot. We basically found no examples, Brad, I don't think, of anyone doing a rollout of condition-based maintenance across their portfolio without starting with some sort of test to begin with. And you're basically testing each step, right? So can you, step 4, generate useful signals? Can you, step 5, triage to validate, prioritize, and diagnose those signals? Can you, step 6, get a work order, and then step 7, get it closed by changing someone's roles to act on that work order? And then step 8, can you measure the results, which we'll talk about at the next slide. And then finally, the rollout phase, phase 3, standardizes, expands, reports on, and sustains that program across new systems, new sites, new teams, and over time. And this playbook really isn't new, right? We have many building owners today here that are currently running this. Yeah, Dave, go Kaiser Permanente, right? Many of the building owners here today and at our events are running this playbook. And I think I can report from them the best way for them to avoid mistakes as they've built their program is to talk to the people that are already running it. So if you're new, this today is designed for you to meet other people like you that are a little bit further ahead in this playbook and don't make the mistakes they've made. So ask them about the mistakes, ask the vendors about how you can avoid issues, which we'll talk about in just a second. Yes, sharing is caring. All right. The first step of that playbook was define outcomes. And it's actually really important and it often gets missed, which leads to these case studies we reviewed. There's usually some sort of stall out or lack of support across the org, lack of continued funding. And here's how we see the smart buildings ninjas in the room, integrating these outcomes into each phase so that you can keep the momentum going in your program. So first, in the setup phase, you commit to an outcome that is connected to enterprise value of some sort, right? So a university might choose to go after reducing total cost of ownership and allow more funding to go into the educational mission. A landlord or an office occupier might choose something else like tenant retention or tenant attraction. That outcome needs to go into your pilot phase. When you design your pilot, you're then saying, what can I measure that will be predictive of that outcome coming true? The university might say, we believe work orders closed from those condition signals will predict that total cost of ownership going down. It's easy to measure, and that university can assume that it will lead to that reduced total cost of ownership if the pilot phase is turned into a rollout. And then finally, in the rollout phase, it's all about connecting the program back to that outcome by proving it. So proving it some way would be like showing maintenance cost per square foot is going down over time, or unplanned downtime is being reduced and therefore the mission is being affected less. And obviously, if you plan all this from the start, then the program is much more likely to make it through each stage and make it through the expansion. All right, next thing is when we studied all these 50 programs, we saw a ton of reasons why these programs get tripped up. And we're not going to walk through them here, but the PDF is going to have all of those in detail. And the idea is, again, if you know how these things fail, then you can accelerate your program by navigating around these obstacles. And the obstacles that we're hitting today, we have accelerator presentations by everyone that's about to present. So we have Travis Kreiner will show how to redesign maintenance workflows for condition-based maintenance. He's doing this at mega scale at CBRE. Terrell Whitson is kind of Smart Buildings famous for leading Microsoft's program for many, many years. Terrell's going to show how to do the triage step in the playbook and avoid false positives and faulty data. Microsoft's program was an early inspiration for Iowa's program, which has been running for 10 years. Brad and Katie will show how to integrate your CMMS, integrate conditions into your CMMS without flooding your work orders. Jose is then going to show an accelerator from a huge multi-site retail program where they had to figure out how to turn restroom sensors into actionable workflows. And then Hannah is going to take us over to Dallas, to the DFW airport, where they've basically successfully addressed the obstacle of issues not getting fully fixed. And so they'll be on soon to walk through those accelerators. Let's talk real quick about the vendors enabling condition-based maintenance. This is a huge part of the playbook. Technology enables the workflow transformation. And so the device layer, those sorts of products, they're going to allow the equipment condition to become visible without sending a technician to look at that piece of equipment. And then at the data layer, you have signals from all of those pieces of equipment arriving with the context needed to act on them. And then the application layer, you have all those signals become findings that teams can prioritize and act on. And then finally, we have service providers here today and in the marketplace who bring outside expertise to integrate, optimize, and verify the program over time. And the marketplace on our website basically gives you guys our database for all these categories of which vendors are in these categories. Today, however, we have 7 of them to check out, right? There was over 900, I think, Brad, in the marketplace. So we have 7 that we're going to check out today. They're all doing condition-based maintenance at scale of some sort, and they have proven ways to enable these playbooks in your buildings. Definitely stick around for the demo and expo portions of this event where you can go deep with each of these 7 and hear about the work they're doing with your peers. Finally, we have the ability to grade your program. So let me walk through this real quick. This is the final part of the playbook, and that's benchmarking. So figuring out where you are today then enables you to figure out your next steps, enables you to figure out who your peers are and figuring out those next steps. And so stage 1 is in the setup phase. Reactive and calendar-based PMs are dominant. This is where a lot of programs are at today. No shame in that. Eventually, you move to stage 2, where you start to build these signals, but you haven't started to really integrate them into your workflows yet. Stage 3 is you've gone into that pilot loop, and you're proving that you can action the signals, integrating them into your workflows, change your roles, report on the success, etc. Stage 4 is the programmatic rollout and optimizing the program at scale. And then 5, which I don't think we're going to get into a whole lot today, but we've heard examples of this in all of these case studies, is enterprise integration. So starting to think about asset performance and asset health, crossing department boundaries and shaping decisions elsewhere. So shaping your capital planning, shaping the way that you serve your tenants in office buildings, shaping your sustainability programs and et cetera. And so we're hearing lots of programs getting to that point, which is exciting. If you're watching the recording of this presentation, you can go back to our playbook page and benchmark your program against your peers there. But for today, for our live audience, we're going to throw up a poll and let you tell us where you're at, and then give you live where the rest of the group is at here today. So Brad, let's do it.
Yeah, and we're hoping